Number 6, Tesla Cybercab. Imagine hailing a taxi that has no driver, no steering wheel, no pedals, just you, a destination, and artificial intelligence making every decision at 70 miles per hour. That's not science fiction anymore. That's a Tesla Cybercab, and it's rolling out in 2026. Elon Musk unveiled this thing in late 2024, and the automotive world hasn't been the same since. This isn't just another Tesla with autopilot. This is a purpose-built robotaxi that was designed from the ground up to operate without any human intervention whatsoever. When you step inside, you immediately notice what's missing. There's no driver's seat. There's no dashboard. There's just a massive screen and 2 seats facing each other like you're in some futuristic living room on wheels. The Cybercab uses Tesla's full self-driving technology, but this time it's not an add-on feature. It's the entire point. The car sees the world through cameras and neural networks that have been trained on billions of miles of driving data. It predicts what other drivers will do before they do it. It reads traffic patterns like you'd read a book. And it does all of this while you sit back and scroll through your phone. Here's where it gets really wild. Tesla says the operating cost of the Cybercab will be around 20 cents per mile. Compare that to traditional rideshare services that charge you $2 or $3 per mile, and you start to see why taxi drivers and Uber executives are losing sleep. The plan is to flood cities with these autonomous vehicles, creating a network so dense that you'd never wait more than a few minutes for a ride. And because there's no human driver to pay, the cost drops to almost nothing. But let's talk about the controversy, because there's plenty of it. Regulators are scratching their heads trying to figure out if they should even allow fully autonomous vehicles on public roads. There are questions about liability. If a cybercab gets into an accident, who's responsible? The passenger? Tesla? The AI? Nobody really knows yet. And there are concerns about job displacement. Millions of people around the world make their living driving taxis, Ubers, and delivery vehicles. What happens to them when a fleet of cybercabs takes over? Despite all that, Tesla is charging ahead. They're projecting production to ramp up fast, with the goal of having these on the road in select cities by late 2026. The price tag for owning one? Under $30,000. That's cheaper than most new cars on the market today. And if you don't want to own one, you'll be able to summon one with your phone, just like you do with Uber, except it'll be cheaper and there won't be awkward small talk about the weather. Number 5, Lotus Evija. 2,000 horsepower. Let that number sink in for a second. The Lotus Evija produces 2,000 horsepower from an all-electric powertrain, making it one of the most powerful production cars ever built. This isn't just a fast car. This is a car that redefines what fast even means. Lotus, the British brand known for lightweight sports cars and racing heritage, decided to build a hypercar for the electric age, and they didn't hold back. The Evija weighs just over 3,000 pounds, which is astonishingly light for an electric vehicle. Most EVs are heavy because of their battery packs, but Lotus obsessed over every single gram. The chassis is made from carbon fiber. The body panels are made from carbon fiber. Even some of the interior components are made from carbon fiber. The result is a car that feels like it defies physics. The performance numbers are almost comical. 0 to 60 miles per hour in under 3 seconds. 0 to 200 miles per hour in under 9 seconds. Top speed? Over 200 miles per hour. And it does all of this in complete silence, which is somehow even more terrifying. There's no roaring engine to warn you that you're about to break the laws of physics. Just a quiet hum, and then suddenly you're moving faster than your brain can process. The design of the Evija is pure aggression. It looks like something that would chase you in a nightmare. Every surface, every curve, every vent serves a purpose. Those massive openings in the body aren't just for show. They channel air through the car to reduce drag and increase downforce. At high speeds, the Evija generates over 4,000 pounds of downforce, which is enough to theoretically drive upside down in a tunnel. Not that anyone's going to test that. Inside, it's minimalist. 2 seats, a digital display, a steering wheel that looks like it belongs in a fighter jet. Everything is focused on driving. There are no cup holders, no storage compartments, no luxury features. This car exists for one reason: to go faster than anything else on the road. Only 130 units will ever be built, and each one costs over $2 million. Most of them are already sold to collectors who will probably never drive them. And that's a shame, because this car was built to be driven. It was built to remind us that even in an age of autonomous vehicles and environmental concerns, there's still room for something that exists purely for the thrill of speed. Number 4, Ferrari Elettrica. Ferrari said they'd never build an electric car. They said the sound of a screaming V12 was part of their DNA. They said electric vehicles didn't have the soul, the passion, the romance of a true Ferrari. And then they announced the Ferrari Elettrica, their first fully electric vehicle, coming in 2026. This is a huge deal. Ferrari has been making internal combustion engines for over 75 years. The sound of a Ferrari engine is iconic. It's music, it's art, and now they're throwing that away in favor of electric motors and battery packs. Except they're not really throwing it away. They're evolving it. The Elettrica is rumored to produce over 1,000 horsepower from a tri-motor setup. 1 motor in the front, 2 in the rear, giving it all-wheel drive and the kind of instant torque that will make your stomach drop. Ferrari has been testing this car relentlessly, and early reports suggest it'll do 0 to 60 in under 2 seconds. That's hypercar territory. That's faster than some cars can even shift gears. But Ferrari knows that performance isn't everything. They know their customers care about emotion, about the experience of driving. So they've spent years working on what they call sound engineering. The Elettrica will produce an artificial sound, something uniquely Ferrari, something that stirs the soul even without a combustion engine. Some purists are going to hate this. They're going to say it's fake, that it's cheating. But Ferrari doesn't care. They're building a car for the future, not for people stuck in the past. The design is still under wraps, but leaked images suggest something low, wide, and aggressive. It has the proportions of a traditional Ferrari, but with modern electric vehicle touches. Smooth surfaces for aerodynamics, active aero elements that adjust based on speed, and probably some design cues that gnaw the classic Ferraris from decades past. The price? Probably somewhere north of $500,000. Maybe more. This isn't a car for everyone. This is a car for Ferrari loyalists who want to be part of history. The first electric Ferrari. The car that proves you can have sustainability without sacrificing performance. The car that shows the world Ferrari isn't afraid to change. Number 3, Polestar 6 Electric Roadster. Here's a car that shouldn't exist. A beautiful, elegant, fully electric roadster with a removable roof and performance that rivals supercars. The Polestar 6 is what happens when a car company decides to build something purely because it's cool, not because it makes business sense. Polestar started as Volvo's performance division, but they've evolved into their own brand focused entirely on electric vehicles. And while their sedans and SUVs are practical and sensible, the Polestar 6 is neither of those things. It's a 2-seater roadster with a long hood, a short rear deck, and proportions that look like they were drawn by someone who grew up worshiping classic sports cars. Under that beautiful exterior is serious hardware. Dual electric motors producing over 800 horsepower. A battery pack integrated into the floor that lowers the center of gravity to nearly nothing, 0 to 60 in 3.2 seconds. And a top speed that's electronically limited because anything higher would probably be irresponsible. But what makes the Polestar 6 special isn't the performance. It's the fact that it's a roadster. Electric roadsters are rare because they're difficult to engineer. You need structural rigidity, which usually requires a fixed roof. You need space for batteries, which usually eats into interior space. And you need to keep weight down, which is hard when you're carrying hundreds of pounds of battery cells. Polestar solved all of these problems with clever engineering and a willingness to spend money on exotic materials. The roof is removable and stores in the trunk, which means you sacrifice cargo space for open-air driving. But who cares? If you're buying a 2-seater electric roadster, you're not worried about cargo space. You're worried about feeling the wind in your hair while you silently accelerate past traffic on a coastal highway. Inside, it's pure Scandinavian minimalism. Clean lines, high-quality materials, no clutter. There's a digital display for essential information and a small screen for media and navigation, but everything else is stripped away. The focus is on driving, on experiencing the road, on connecting with the car. Only 500 units will be built, and they're all basically sold already. Prices start around $200,000, which is expensive but not absurd for what you're getting. This is a limited edition electric roadster from a brand that's quickly becoming a serious player in the EV market. In 10 years, these will be collector's items. Number 2, Zenvo Aurora. Denmark isn't known for building hypercars, but that hasn't stopped Zenvo from creating some of the most extreme vehicles on the planet. Their latest creation, the Aurora, is a 12-cylinder hybrid hypercar that produces over 1,200 horsepower and costs over $2 million. It's excessive. It's unnecessary. It's absolutely glorious. The Aurora comes in 2 versions. The Agile, which is focused on track performance, and the Tour, which is designed for high-speed runs and top-speed records. Both versions use the same basic formula: a quad-turbocharged V12 engine paired with hybrid electric motors. The result is a car that sounds like an apocalypse and accelerates like a missile. Let's talk about that V12 for a second. In an era where everyone's downsizing to turbocharged 4 cylinders and V6s, Zenvo went the opposite direction. They built a massive 12-cylinder engine with 4 turbochargers. 4. Most cars have 1 turbo. Some performance cars have 2. Zenvo strapped on 4, and then added electric motors for good measure. The sound this thing makes is otherworldly. It's not refined or elegant. It's violent and raw and completely addictive. The design is equally extreme. The Aurora looks like it was designed by someone who hates air resistance. Every surface is sculpted to either slice through the wind or generate downforce. The front end is low and wide with massive air intakes, feeding those 4 turbochargers. The rear end features an enormous diffuser and an active rear wing that adjusts based on speed and driving mode. At top speed, the Tour version is projected to exceed 250 miles per hour, making it one of the fastest cars ever built. Inside, it's surprisingly comfortable. Carbon fiber racing seats with leather padding. Digital displays showing everything from tire pressure to turbo boost levels. A steering wheel wrapped in Alcantara with buttons for adjusting drive modes and suspension settings. This is a car you could theoretically drive every day, assuming you have the money for gas and don't mind the attention. Only 50 units of each version will be built, and most are already claimed by collectors. These aren't cars you'll see on the street. These are garage queens, investments, trophies. But for the lucky few who actually drive them, the Aurora represents the absolute peak of internal combustion performance. In a world moving toward electric vehicles, Zenvo built a car that celebrates everything that's loud, fast, and gloriously inefficient about gasoline engines. Number 1, Olive Model A flying car. Flying cars have been promised for decades. Every few years, some startup unveils a concept vehicle that can supposedly drive on roads and fly through the air, and every time it turns out to be vaporware or a prototype that never makes it to production. The Olive Model A is different. It has FAA approval, it has pre-orders, and it's scheduled to start deliveries in 2026. This is a real flying car, not a plane that can drive, not a helicopter with wheels. A legitimate vehicle that drives on normal roads using normal lanes and then, when you need it to, takes off vertically and flies. The technology behind this is genuinely impressive. The Model A uses 8 electric rotors built into the frame of the car. When you're driving, they're inactive and tucked away. When you want to fly, the entire vehicle tilts 90 degrees and the rotors lift you straight up into the air. The driving range is 200 miles on a single charge. The flying range is 110 miles. That's enough to skip traffic, fly over a congested highway, and land on the other side. Imagine living in Los Angeles and being able to fly over the 405 during rush hour. Imagine living in New York and flying from Manhattan to JFK Airport in 10 minutes instead of sitting in traffic for an hour. That's the promise of the Olive Model A. Now, let's address the obvious concerns, because there are many. First, you need a pilot's license to fly this thing. You can't just buy one and take off. You need training. You need to understand airspace regulations. You need to know how to handle emergencies. Second, this car costs $300,000, which puts it out of reach for most people. Third, the infrastructure doesn't really exist yet. Where do you take off? Where do you land? Are you allowed to land in your driveway? In a parking lot? Nobody really knows because the regulations are still being figured out. But despite all these challenges, Olive has over 3,000 pre-orders. People are willing to put down deposits for a chance to own the first real flying car. And that tells you something about how badly people want this technology to work. We've been stuck with the same basic transportation options for over a century. Cars, trains, planes. The Olive Model A represents something genuinely new, a genuine leap forward. The design is boxy and utilitarian, which makes sense given all the technology packed inside. It seats 2 people and has minimal cargo space. The interior is basic, with a digital display and simple controls. This isn't a luxury vehicle. This is a proof of concept, a first step toward a future where flying cars are normal. Will it succeed? Nobody knows. There are still enormous regulatory hurdles. There are questions about safety, noise pollution, air traffic management. But for the first time in history, a flying car feels possible. Not in some distant future. Not in 50 years. In 2026. Next year. And that alone makes it the most advanced, most controversial, most shouldn't be legal vehicle on this entire list.